Howdy everyone, I'm Riley. I'm a merch artist and sometimes I go to art fairs and conventions to sell my wares. My most recent being AWA or Anime Weekend Atlanta. I'm going to be sharing details of my experience as well as some of the general experiences that other artists felt. I would like to also explain that my situation did not have nearly as much weight as some other artists, mainly because I was fortunate enough that I did not have to pay for my lodging for this con. So please understand that when I talk about the pressure others felt, I was not under the same level of pressure. So this was my first out-of-state con. I was very nervous about it. First thing, this con is 4 days long, which is apparently new. A lot of things about this well-established con were apparently new. But this meant that since we were in Texas, we had to leave on Wednesday, which is kind of awkward if you have a job, but thankfully my husband got time off, so we got to leave at a crisp 3 a.m. to embark on our 12-hour drive to Atlanta. And that's all the B-roll you are going to get. I am actually really bad at remembering to film. After a smooth 12 hours, we arrived in Atlanta and loaded in. Loaded was a little weird. They had a long line of cars out front, so we assumed we were in the right place, and we were. But this is like an entrance hall where there's like a ton of doors, and for some reason they only had the doors unlocked at the very front of the line, so if you had to go further in, you had to haul your extremely heavy luggage over into that one and then go back up to where you were to go find the entrance hall. Yeah, I could have done multiple trips, but it would have felt easier for load-in if they unlocked all the doors instead of locking them. We got inside, checked in, started setting up, and then we saw that they gave us all 2 chairs. For context, my whole goal was not to let this con squeeze any more money out of me. The table fee was around $320, and I had to tack on an extra $100 to give my husband a badge. And in emails, they said that they were only providing a single chair, and if we needed extra, we could either bring it or rent it through the exhibitor for around $30 a piece. But I guess they just lied or forgot to communicate that plans changed the rest of us. This is such a minor inconvenience in the grand scheme of things, but it really just ended up rubbing me the wrong way. I already felt pretty penny pinched, and this was just a cherry on top of it all because they kept sending us emails to make sure vendors know that we had to buy chairs before the event so everyone would have a place to sit. But we get to by default anyways. Day 1 was crickets. Our hours for the day were 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday and Friday were 10 to 6, and then Sunday was 10 to 4. So a grand total of 30-hour time period in which vendors were open for the entire weekend. And I really want people to think about that. Imagine working 30 hours in 4 days without any certainty that you'll be able to pay off what you've spent to go to work, especially when we consider that you're under the impression that this con will be worth it due to either word of mouth or your personal past experiences of making a large profit, and you might have spent extra overstocking. Now, you sit down, look at the vendor hall, and it's just crickets. If you look at other artist vlogs and videos about this event, you're probably going to hear about the low attendance in the hall. It really did not pick up until around 4 to 5-ish because, it's Thursday during a work week. There's maybe a grand total of 2 hours of busy time. So let's circle back about how everything was new here. Apparently, this was a new venue, a new date, and new days, and I guess they didn't continue their contract with their previous convention center and decided to move to a different one and move their dates, and then for some unknown reason, added in another day to the roster before they had their first year at this convention. This day honestly felt a bit insulting. I do understand that some cons do work as 4-day conventions, but it isn't the standard set of days for a reason. Even for a 3-day con, artists have to mentally prepare for Fridays to be slower in comparison to the rest of the con. Unless the convention is that impressive and that powerful enough as a staple for thousands of people to not only revisit and save money each year, but to also willingly give up their vacation days to attend on a Thursday, you should not be a 4-day con. This extra day puts on an extreme level of difficulty for vendors to overcome. That is an extra day of food and lodging costs. This would average a few $100s. It's stressful, especially when you consider you're sacrificing an extra day to eat more into your future profits. So it's incredibly frustrating. Now, despite all of this, I had a pretty good time Thursday. I made Ashley Nichols and Michael Kovac a pencil drawing of their personas together, and then I got really embarrassed and shy handing it to them and basically ran away. They're really nice. I was extremely embarrassed and shy. And it was the start of being, I believe, the only Warrior Cats booth that most patrons have ever seen. I really lucked out here. I did some math after the con, and around 70% of my sales were Warrior Cat inspired products. If I didn't have this secret hyper-focused niche, I probably would have done way worse and had a much more stressed and bummed experience than I had. But wonderfully, the social atmosphere was fantastic. I got to meet people who followed me either here or on my Twitter, and I got so many little gifts. And overall, I just had a blast talking to others about the franchise and their personal life experiences with it and how it made them grow as a person. I also got my first pencil commission, and then over the weekend, I actually had the opportunity to make 8 custom pencil commissions, which is amazing because this is the first time I've ever done that. So I would like to thank everyone who decided to commission me for one of those. So Thursday for me was just fine. I made back a little bit of table cost, but that shouldn't be the case. The majority of artists I know, we all expect to be able to pay back at least the table fee before end of day 1. And I know for many that they couldn't. Once again, no reason to have this Thursday date when all it does is waste time and money for everyone involved. I don't think there was a single Thursday only badge the entire time the vendor hall was open, so it felt incredibly pointless to tack this on. Another factor for the poor sales and attendance was the layout. I was lucky enough to be placed perfectly in the middle, so I didn't get these issues, but I want to make y'all aware about the other issues that artists face on either side of the hall. Over in, I believe, the 1400 aisles or so, vendors are placed directly next to the stage, forcing them to be constantly blasted with loud music and microphone announcements, and this made a lot of vendors' voices get extremely hoarse due to the amount of yelling they had to do. And I just want you to think critically for a second. Do you think that type of environment is lucrative to make sales or make a connection with your audience? And then on the other side of the hall, it was cut off strangely due to the 18 plus hall being right there. It made it so that there was like a secret corner of artists that most people did not know were there. So that really messed up a lot of sales for those people. I also believe, if I remember correctly, that in that area too, the loading bay door was being open and closed constantly, and it let like the cold wind in, and it would mess up a lot of booth displays while that was happening. So very stressful time for everyone. And for some reason, despite this being a new venue, they decided to double the size of their vendor hall, which made it a mess. And it was a really depressing day if you did not get front-loaded with positivity like I did on Thursday. You would go back to your lodging depressed. This event really broke a lot of people's spirits, and I cannot really blame them. It's also really shitty timing with the holidays being right around the corner too. Traveling, food, and lodging is way higher than normal due to holiday season. So if the con cannot match that energy, well, you have wasted thousands of dollars to stay here. So Friday was better, but not by much. The food in the hall was the most memorable part of the day for me. Everything here was basically under heat lamps, and going outside the venue to grab food was not an easy task, to say the least. I guess I might be a little spoiled by the Texas convention circuit, but con food is at least halfway decent and expensive, but not outrageous. This venue, it was dubious quality at best, and I kept feeling like I was being robbed. After this day, I just ran on a protein shake and waited until after the con was over to eat, which was another nightmare. This hotel is new, and its reviews will tell you that everyone who stays there will see the cracks in its operations. So, since we were forced to valet, and it's a massive populace of people staying there, because not only is the anime convention happening, there are work conventions happening as well. There are maybe a total of 5 valets that are running back and forth between the garage and the convention center, so things were moving at a snail's pace if you wanted to leave. There were other cars waiting for rideshare or waiting for the valet to take their car, and it backed everything up real bad on that intersection. It was honestly kind of hellish. We drove out to eat once and then walked a different time. And by the way, this is more of a tip if you're staying in Atlanta. Call ahead for any food place you want to go to. I don't know if we just went on an off week, but there were 4 separate instances of us going out to find food, and then Google says that they're open for at least 4 more hours, and then when we get there, they're just closed for the day, I guess. So it forced us to eat at a Margaritaville that had the worst quality of food I've ever had, and also was way more expensive than what they charged us versus what was on their menu, but that's besides the point. I did not enjoy Atlanta food-wise at all. The only thing that was worth it was Chiba Hut and Kura Sushi, but those are 2 chains that we have here, so I knew that I would like it. And I am not convinced that Atlanta is a foodie place, I just think that it's expensive. Saturday was, of course, the best day sales-wise, but it was also the day when they closed off the bathroom closest to me. That's another aspect I don't think will be talked about enough in other vlogs, but there was maybe a grand total of 12 stalls for women in the artist hall. And then on Saturday, they had to close it off for the rest of the weekend and limited the total amount of stalls to 6 or 7. And it really sucked. I am not sure why the bathroom was locked off. I know accidents do happen, but the real question is, why does a convention hall that is very large and meant to hold thousands of people at once only have 12 stalls for women? I'm not including the men's section here. I did not go in there, and my husband just went back up to the hotel room, so I don't know what that situation was like. Once again, in the grand scheme of things, it is a minor gripe to an extent. They always had staff in the restroom to make sure nothing got gross, which they are the angels that we need. They were so nice and so sweet. I loved them. But this convention hall layout really confuses me. Everyone I met was super nice, and I had a great time socially once again. I really do love learning about people's OCs and their experiences with warrior cats. I had a lot of people tell me about their cosplays that they did over the years and how it inspired them to read, or even how it changed the trajectory of their life in some way. Once again, love the people, but I was really being love bombed, and I would have felt awful about myself if I wasn't stacked with warrior cats merch, I think. And this was the day I felt like tension artist had was very palpable. I was so lost in my social bliss because I'm like a hyper-focused dog and was only focused on my positive social experiences, that when I asked a fellow vendor stopping by how the event was going for them, I was surprised to be met with a very exasperated, "What's even the point in pretending it'll go well?" And it did bring me out of my social bliss. The artist alley was honestly stacked. There were several artists there I looked up for years that I got to meet in person, and I wholeheartedly believe that everyone who was there deserved it. Everyone's art and products looked amazing. Talent wasn't the issue, effort wasn't the issue, the event itself was the problem. Everyone was pretty downtrodden Sunday in terms of vendors, but I did get to witness a really cool interaction where the voice actress for Ragatha from Amazing Digital Circus snuck up behind a Pomni checking out at my booth and jump scaring her as Ragatha, so that was really cool. Really the biggest thing of note that happened that day is that a different artist at Loadout had their entire backpack stolen whilst they were at the con, so that really sucks. It kind of tells you about security, seeing that this was during closing hours at the convention. Otherwise, other things that happened that day, I got a couple of free markers from the Copic table, and they told me about their raffle for Artist Alley, where if you fill out a form, they would enter you in for a chance to have your table cost compensated, which is pretty cool. I obviously did not win. I'm also not sure if the entire vendor hall was aware that this was happening, but yeah, I got to buy some really cool things. I can't share them because my friends watch my videos and this contains their Christmas presents, so I'll share what I got. For myself, I got these beautiful Wolf's Rain pins of Blue and Hige from Alchemy Art, and then these Heidi Town pins and Sweeney Todd pin in a trade with Lin Creates, and then of course the Wobble sticker pack from Lauren Walsh. I am so excited to use all of these. Once again, an insane amount of talent in this hall despite the lackluster outcome of this event. I got to make a lot of new connections, and I'm really happy I went to this convention. I, along with the majority of artists though, will not be returning probably. The added day when paired with all these new changes really killed this con. I understand that cons need to make decisions about where to move or move around their dates in order to keep operating at their best, and there might be some growing pains whilst doing that, but to add in an extra day for some reason before they even quote-unquote tested out this venue doesn't feel like it was well thought out, short of that they can squeeze more money out of their vendors and maybe out of the multi-pass holders just to get a few extra days worth of money from those attending. Next time I'm in Atlanta for a con, I will definitely be splitting a room situation with like 6 or 7 people because it is so expensive. And I'm going to know in a few days if I get into Furry Weekend Atlanta, but this event made me feel a little bit hesitant about going if I do end up getting in. I'm more of a furry artist than an anime artist, so I'm sure number-wise I do better at FWA than AWA, but this just left a not-so-great experience when I looked at everything objectively. In conclusion, this event is just way too expensive for anyone non-local to really justify. The best I saw in my circles was an NSFW artist making bank, but it seems like they were an outlier when compared to the rest of the convention, so it might work better for some people than others, but if you're traveling out of state for this con, you'll have to be extremely cautious. I know a lot of people ordered overstock in preparation for this event in tandem with the out-of-state traveling costs, so this adds up quickly with little to no payoff. Also be aware that the venue they chose is attached to a relatively new hotel and that they haven't been open long enough for their operations to be really smooth if you're forced to use valet like we were. Be prepared to wait for a long while. And Atlanta is extremely expensive. Make sure your lodging has a microwave so you can potentially bring your own food. Ours didn't, and we were really pumped about it. But in my experience, the best part of the con was, of course, the people. And once again, I had a weird niche. I had a lot of positive interactions, so other artists will probably not be as upbeat as they are in their reflections of this con. I had so many sweet furries and Where Your Cats Ran geeking out, so I am extremely skewed in terms of my emotions with this con. I'll probably skip out on this for now. I'm more informed to look for certain things for cons now, such as what are the changes from the previous year, and I'm not gonna lie, I mainly did this con so I would have an excuse to go to the Georgia Aquarium, and that wish was easy to make true on Monday. But it's an unfortunate situation. It's frustrating too when artists complain to the staff. They were told to think of it like a first year con due to all the changes, But the fact of the matter is that this is not a first-year convention, and that's not what a lot of people spend thousands of dollars to go to. It's unfair to mitigate artists' frustrations when they are going off of how well it did the previous years and word of mouth from trusted colleagues and friends, that it's extremely disheartening when the con staff just dismiss the concerns, instead of maybe taking it to heart. Anyways, this will be my last video of the year. If you want to check out the stuff I sell at conventions, below in the description you can find my shop links as well as my social media. Let me know, did you go to AWA? Was it fun? Was it this year or was it one of the previous years? What were your thoughts? Let me know. Okay, bye!